Thank you so much. Good afternoon to, or rather good morning to all of you. Professor Manoj Sinha, I was recollecting my days in Delhi University with him. What he hasn't mentioned is that his younger brother was my classmate in St. Stephen's. Mr. Tiwari here, who invited me to this event. Other dignitaries in the dais, the representatives of the University of Georgia, and my dear friends. Looking at the young faces here, I'm reminded of my college days many years ago. We used to have in Stephens particularly one after dinner conversation, which was a free-flowing conversation with some person whom we used to invite regularly. So what I would take permission from the principal is, I would probably set aside 5 or 6 minutes at the end of my speech for fielding some questions from you, because I think an interaction with people like you, young students who will be the future of this country, who will drive the goal of Viksit Bharat, who will see the fruits of Viksit Bharat, to pose some questions. Well, much has been said about artificial intelligence, much has been written about, talked about. We had the AI Impact Summit recently in Delhi. Those who are science students here would also know that AI depends largely on modeling algorithms, and those algorithms are nothing but a set of equations or inequations and a set of constraints. So AI's main optimization depends on data. Having said so, while I come to those aspects later, Professor Sinha talked about some of the challenges. Let me broadly speak about the topic today, because that's what I'm asked to speak. The impact of AI or AI and education for Viksit Bharat. What is education per se? If I have to do a black box kind of, rather a kind of a rectangular box flow kind of a thing, then education would largely be people who are being educated and people who are imparting education. जो पढ़ रहे हैं और जो पढ़ाते हैं, यही basically है. And then there is an infrastructure. I'm not getting into the infrastructure aspect now, because even in earlier gurukuls and all, you didn't have those large infrastructures. Infrastructure is a must. I'm not trying to kind of belittle the importance of infrastructure in all this conversation. But that's secondary, because everyone will pick up with infrastructure, will be supplied infrastructure eventually. The gap in infrastructure between rural and urban will continue to remain. That has to be bridged. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm more concerned. I recently spoke somewhere in Singapore on this particular subject of AI and education, and that's what I'm trying to bring it here. So there are two groups of people. One, the persons who are to be educated, and the persons who are imparting that education. And you put it in different ways, that education for AI and AI for education. It is broadly that way. Now let's look at these two people, that is, those who have to be educated. That means those who have to be supplied, in economics terms, those who have to be supplied AI education. What is their position? What is their position in the scheme of things today in the educational ecosystem? And there is a demand. On the demand side are the students who are demanding AI, because AI is required for their growth, for their career, for the development of the country as a whole. Now, if you look at these two aspects, the students, that is, the requirement of AI in education cannot be overemphasized at this juncture globally, because everywhere you find it is the AI models. Why? I would like you to recollect what I mentioned just a few minutes ago about data. The availability of data across fields, across sectors, across institutions, and across, as I would say, web portals and internet and everything is so much that it is very easy to develop algorithms, train them to become AI models and deliver. And these models, because of machine learning, have the capacity to improve themselves continuously. So AI is going to be there everywhere. It is, as I say, it is one of the most disruptive elements. You know, people talk about technology being disruptor. Within technology, AI will be the biggest disruptor. Is already disrupting a number of things in society, in every field, in every sector. So AI, importance of AI for students will be there. The need for acquiring some kind of expertise to know about AI, and definitely some kind of versatility to use AI in different use cases would always be there, and that is what you should all be striving at. My worry largely is supply, the supply side. That is, those who will teach AI, those who will be teaching the way they have to teach AI in classrooms, the pedagogy, the way the teachers who have to teach AI have to continuously improve their skills about AI, because, as I said, the AI models improve themselves with the data. So there has to be something called continuing professional education, which is not too common in India, but it is very common abroad. Now, these are the aspects on which I am really worried as a policymaker, because students, skill to adopt technology, particularly AI, students' requirement for adopting AI, and students' commitment or students' will to adopt AI are all there. So demand side is already there, and largely there. It is influenced by global dynamics, as well as national dynamics, as well as our goal of Viksit Bharat. We realize that if you have to realize the dreams of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji for seeing a developed India in 2047, then we have to adopt AI, take the advantages of AI across the fields. I think it is important to mention here that India has also been, even in rural areas, one of the biggest adopters of technology. The diffusion of technology in India is very high compared to even the West. May I remind you of the time when in the United States people were hesitant to take the vaccine. India had no such issue of vaccine hesitation. Adoption of technology is immense without knowing about the technology. For a guy in rural India, the AI is just a black box. The other day, I must tell you, I always cite this incidents everywhere, because the finance minister told me that one day she was traveling in Bangalore and she found a car which was traveling in front of her car, rolled down the window, and from the window just showed the UPI QR code to the person selling some mangoes, and bought it and paid it there itself, and rolled up the thing and went away. The guy who is selling doesn't know anything about UPI, QR code and all, but adoption is so high. So AI adoption will take place. Our students will be adopting AI. So this, having said this about the demand side, and we have done several programs. Government of India has come out with National AI Program, AI for All, AI India AI Mission, AI for Education in the NEP 2020. So I think the ground is made. The demand side is already brimming with expectations. The point is supply. The supply is, who will supply this knowledge? It will be the teachers. Now, what are we doing about it? What is it there for the teachers' education in general and teachers' education in AI? Adoption of teachers' education using AI, changing pedagogy using AI. People talked about personalized, teaching in classes. Yes, it's a very noble, goal that can be achieved. The divide that is there usually in a class between the bright students and the not so bright students can be bridged to a large extent by the same teacher by adoption of AI and giving personalized input to him. Also, unlocking the value of every student, maybe in different fields by using AI. A lot of data is available to actually train these students. The concern now, as I have been again coming back to the point, is about teachers. I know that my friends are here, teachers are here, and you know that I've been with the CAG, so I have audited several times the higher education department of many states and the teachers education program, teachers education examination, and I know that let's admit within ourselves that there is a lot that has to be done. Even in the normal educational, normal training programs, and the outcome of such training programs in influencing the teachers' skills and power to deliver is not to the desired extent. Now, to bring in AI at this juncture and to train them to teach AI, to be abreast of the changes in the AI models, just as data starts getting into the machine and the machine learns and improves the models, that capacity has to be built with the with our teaching system, or the teaching, the suppliers, the supply side. Whether we have done enough on this, I still feel that this is something I am worried about. I'm not worried about the teachers in Delhi, teachers in the big cities, teachers where access to various models or various methods of retraining themselves, reskilling themselves, upskilling themselves is available. I'm worried about those teachers who have to teach the young minds in the primary level or in the secondary level or even at the college level in the tier, even in, not just even rural India, but even in the tier 2 cities. I have traveled enough, having come to public life, to know that there is a lot which has to be done. This is something which I keep telling the government as well, and I have been flagging this as a concern everywhere. So this is the two aspects. One is AI for education, and the other one is education for AI. AI is required, yes, as I explained, but education for AI, one is to the students, it is fine, but education for AI for the teachers is, I think, something that the government has to think about. We have to do much more on this. I'm sure all of you who are here concerned about this, particularly the professors here, they would probably make recommendations and bring it into the kind of focus that is required. I would like to also speak a little bit about, in fact, Professor Sinha spoke about it, that it doesn't replace teachers. It replaces a lot of learning which was previously available, which you were probably able to, learn it by rote. But critical thinking, variables which are not really, you can understand, again, science students will understand this, variables which cannot be expressed in binary terms. Why binary? Because the entire computer system, until quantum computing comes, it is actually binary, 0 and 1. So any variable which can be easily expressed in 0 and 1 is amenable to being adopted in AI and AI taking over. But variables which cannot be expressed in 0 and 1, critical thinking, love, compassion, music, nature's beauty of nature, can't be expressed in 0 and 1. Power, I'm throwing a very big variable at the students of sociology and anthropology. Power has been a variable not dealt with in economics so far, and AI also can't handle it. Look at climate change. These are existential crises. AI can only help improve solutions to address these issues, but the issue would remain. And these issues will have to be addressed by people like you. The critical thinking out of it will have to continue. In fact, more emphasis in the classrooms, in pedagogy, has to be on this aspect and not on the aspect of relearning whatever is already available. While doing all this, this is a concern which is more for policymakers, which I would like to flag here. may not be for you, but it is for policymakers to think that since data is the key to AI and a huge amount of data gets used, there are issues relating to privacy. Privacy as a concept has gained prominence in India since 2017 after the Supreme Court read it into Article 19 and 21 of the Indian Constitution, the right to life. Now, privacy is now a fundamental right, and therefore justiciable in the court of law, like any fundamental right. Since a lot of data, students' data, will be used, there'll be data of girls, women, children. Now, whether the system is able to handle this, a lot of pressure will be on educational institutions because they handle a lot of this data. There are, of course, people in the commercial field who will be handling this, but they would have designed mitigating measures for it, which are available in the market. They could have designed systems. I'm not too sure if the universities and colleges are aware of this fact, because with the adoption of the new Digital Data Protection Act in 2023, the penalties are applicable to both government and non-government institutions as high as 200 crores, and the minimum is 50 crores. Now, this is something which have to be kept in mind. Therefore, the guardrails will have to be built while adopting AI. While it is relatively safer in educational institutions, so long as the data remains within the educational institutions, the problem is the huge amount of hackers available and the innovative ways of hacking into systems to sell data, to use that data. So this is one which will be a big concern, and this is for policymakers, and they're addressing it. The passing of the act was an evidence of that. The second thing is, Professor Sinha talked about this, the divide. The AI should not be, adoption of AI should not be, accentuating a divide which already remains, which is divides, not just digital divide, societal divides. Societal divides on caste, on religion, on creed, on community, identity. These kind of divides remain in our society. The adoption of AI should not actually accentuate it or aggravate it. Why there is a fear? Because as I said, and as you understand, I'm sure, that AI models are developed on data. So if a data is already collected in a biased fashion, its adoption subsequently, the bias gets reinforced. So one has to be very careful about this. So I talked about ethical adoption of AI. I've talked about equitable adoption of AI, and the last one is public purpose. So while adopting AI in education itself, the public purpose should be the ultimate goal, whether the student community gains, and even if the students are adopting AI in their lives, whether it is doing some good to society besides doing good to themselves. I thought that I would end by just making one statement and leave the floor for just 2-3 questions. If Vikshit Bharat is our destination, then sovereign, AI-enabled, equitable, and future-ready education must be one of the main roads that takes us there. Sovereign AI is important because, as I said, these challenges are paramount. The possibility of our dependence on large language models imported from outside, using data from outside, may not give us the results that we want, may in fact, as I said, reinforce some of the existing biases and discriminations in society, resulting in negative developmental growth. So I think this is a huge subject, so I'll just end here. But allow me to field 2-3 questions from the audience here, young students. I want to learn myself if I have left out something. Anybody, any questions here? I know this is a keynote speech, so there are no such thing as questions. You have an elaborate panel discussion, 4 of them, and very interesting topics. And the last panel, I think, has students. Students are in the panel. Very interesting composition of a panel I've ever seen actually so far. And congratulations to you, kudos to you for this, because these are the people who will be actually adopting it and get affected by AI the most. Any questions? Yeah, please. हाँ माइक दे दीजिए.
आप तब तक सवाल पूछ सकते हैं, आवाज आ जाएगी आपकी.
आवाज आ जाएगी, आप पूछिए.
Sir, the question is with regards to the lack of research and development budgeting in consecutive budgets of the government. So, the supply side questions which you talked about, would they fall behind the wagon if we see a further lack of R&D budgeting? And would this trend in India fall further behind the wagon, which we see in other technologies like quantum or base semiconductors? And a follow-up question that has that would be, as if we talk about sovereign AI and we have private individual entities or corporations controlling the technology, even as mediators or maybe facilitators towards government or students or to university or public education, then where do we maintain the sanctity of not fueling inequality?
Thank you so much. Good question. The first one I answered on research and development. Research and development expenditure in people is low in our country due to practices of the workers has been very big. Research and development got funding or research and development as a area of concern got addressed, I think, during the last budget when the Kosh was formed for research and development in our country, 1 lakh crore, I think, for research and development. However, you see, the point here is that let us not make any mistake. Let us be very clear. Research and development is required for innovation. Innovation in society improves the lives of people, particularly meets unmet human needs, whether in rural or urban areas in different sectors and different disciplines. To make these innovations, meet these human needs, you need to innovate when we come up with solutions. AI can at best be a tool to innovate. AI itself will not be, there is no point to get a technological delight at the cost of a citizen delight. I get this thing so many times, people come and tell me that I have developed this product, please try to sell it or adopt it. No, it doesn't happen that way, it has to be the reverse way. You have to meet some unmet human need and then use AI as a tool to improve your innovation or hasten the process of innovation. Having said so still, I think the progress made by, the strides made by us in the area of AI, as the Honorable Minister said the other day in Davos, is that we are not doing pretty bad. We started late, but we are now catching up quite fast with US and China. Maybe we are at number 3 currently. As far as, you have to please think rationally here. A conscious decision has been taken not to adopt large language models which have been developed outside, but to develop the Sargon AI is our own development. But the idea is to develop small language models in different sectors. And there I think the cost is less. You can spend whatever amount you require. And the most important thing why India will do well is at the final layer, which is the application layer. Because the use cases are unique. You don't find those unique use cases anywhere in the world in such variety. And number 2, our programming skills, our skills in coding, our knowledge base in computers is also very high. And therefore, we may be falling behind in chip manufacture at the ground level, base level. But the application level, at the user level, we are probably doing very well. And we are giving benefit to the people. There's no point becoming a technological giant without serving people's needs. And therefore, Honorable Prime Minister spoke about democratizing AI. Talked about AI for all, AI for inclusive India, inclusiveness in AI. I have written about it in Organize the other people who want to see democratizing AI. The second question relating to, I'm sorry, I you asked something about sovereign AI. So I answered that question. The sovereign AI is being developed. in our country, but a conscious decision has been taken that they need not necessarily be large language models. And six, for example, currently the work is happening in health, education, agriculture, nutrition. I think there are 6 or 7 areas. In fact, there my suggestion to the government has been to collect the use cases directly from the people who are going to get benefit and not be put from top-down by policy because you have analyzed the situation and said the same. So I think both on the front of funds for making technological progress, research and development, and developing sovereign models, India is not falling behind. India is there at the top where it matters, which is using AI for giving benefits to people in innovative ways. And that should continue. Last bullet I would like to flag is that it is not just the government which is doing it. It will be the private sector, it will be the individual sector, which will also be reaping the benefit for adoption of AI. And if they reap the benefit of adoption of AI,
then they have to also invest in AI. If we have a digital public infrastructure and an AI public infrastructure or stack can sit on it, then it is very good. But the investment also has to come from the private sector as well. And this is what will actually make us reach Viksit Bharat by 2047 when the public and the private sector collaborate immensely on this. Fortunately, it is in this area that it is happening. Government is open about accepting private innovation, and the private sector is finding it much more easier to approach government for adoption of their innovative ways. Is that all?
More questions? Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask that what concrete steps are being taken to implement AI education in government schools where basic education is still a challenge, not just elite education. So how would policymakers and administration also tackle this to bring a huge change at the ground level?
yeah. So in fact, that is what I mentioned in
My entire speech, that my concern is at the primary and the secondary level, particularly in rural areas and tier 2 cities. You see the smart classrooms that have come up because of PM Shri project, PM Shri mission of Honorable Prime Minister, have improved things. When I used to be in the Biju Janata Dal, we also had, the party had also, the government of Naveen Patnaik at that time had implemented what was called as Adarsh Vidyalayas in every block and every, trying to give the best of facilities over there for the students. But as I said, best of facilities will not improve the uptake of a student, or he is growing into somebody who can contribute immensely to society and the country, unless there are people who condition his mind, the teachers. And the teachers, it is not just always about commitment, it is also about someone taking cognizance of the fact that they also have to be trained, they also have to be trained continuously to be able to train those people who have to be trained. And lastly, society as a whole respects teachers, which is unfortunately not there in India. In a lighter note, I am saying. In some places it may be there, but this is this gap which has to be bridged. This gap, unless we improve our primary education and secondary education, even of the basic level, adoption of AI and teaching things about AI will not significantly alter the outcome of such education. That's all. Thank you so much. It's splendid interacting with all of you. Thank you so much to Aryabhatta College, the principal, and the Manish Tiwari ji for giving me this opportunity to come here and interact with all of you. It's an absolute delight that I've been able to get these questions, fill these questions and answer them. And thank you so much to the teachers for being here and conducting this session. Thank you so much.